James earns millions from internet marketing. Tim's got millions of questions. Welcome to Freedom Ocean. Now, jump on in.
James Schramko, welcome back to episode 33 of Freedom Ocean. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Tim?
I'm very well, thank you, and it is a pleasure to be back on the ocean. I have just had a few days in Bali, where the ocean was very warm and sublime.
Huh. Well, I've had a pretty interesting week as well.
Right.
I went out on the ocean as well. I went out on Sydney Harbour and Middle Harbour doing some fishing.
You love your fishing?
I do.
You really love your fishing. And did you catch anything?
Yep.
Besides a cold?
No, I caught some fish, caught a bonito, and we also caught mackerel and brim or snapper. Yeah. And we did all different types of fishing. There's so many different ways you can fish. It's fascinating.
Now, mate, before our listeners all of a sudden think that, because we always get new listeners. Every episode, we get new listeners. We don't want to lead them down the track of this is a
welcome to Freedom Ocean, a fishing show.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you then, because you're the king of analogies. Where's the analogy with fishing and internet marketing?
It's just like internet marketing. It's ridiculously similar. I mean,
you would think that.
Well, we could stick our lure out anywhere in the harbour, but it's a waste of time unless the fish are there. So what we do is look for the birds because they show us where the fish are. So it's like doing your market research. When you find the fish, you've got your starving crowd, and all you need to do is put a bright, shiny object in the water right near the starving crowd, and they jump onto it. And next thing you know, that you've got the catch.
I love that. What we will do is we'll move on from that, but that sounds like a lovely time. And I didn't go fishing in Bali, but I went snorkeling. So and I went where the fish were as well. So we must have been thinking in line, in fishing line. Boom, boom. Please insert drum effect. It's terrible. It was terrible. Sorry. I'll get better as the show goes on.
I've got something for you that you might find interesting. You know how you sometimes beat yourself up a bit because this internet stuff's a bit confusing?
Sometimes. Right. Is that like, frequently? Yep.
Well,
yeah, I do.
Hourly or whatever. But
yep.
I actually got a support request from one of our listeners who works for a very large company, and This is a company who do several $100 million a year in sales, and they'd embarked on an internet campaign, and they were not getting the results that they had hoped for or that they needed to get. And they actually asked if I could just have a look at what they've done and give them some ideas. And the interesting thing is that there's really not a lot of difference between the success they were having and the success that a lot of people starting out are having. So having massive budgets and having all the resources available to you can still result in less than perfect implementation. So it really isn't as easy or basic as one might think. So I thought that might give you a little bit of comfort.
Oh, that's reassuring. Well, it's kind of reassuring in the sense that, okay, so what you've said is there are big guys out there having similar confusing times, but then you've also said it's not as easy as you think it is. I thought you were going to say
these massive companies, they're not split testing. They don't put out a minimum viable product and test it on a very small scale first before they roll hundreds of thousands into a project. They basically just come up with an idea. They think it's going to work, so they just make it happen. It doesn't work. And then it's all, because they're so far invested in it, they have to just, basically do death rolls to try and make it work until it gets the plug pulled on it.
I thought we should maybe finish this episode with a bit of a discussion. So what did you mean by Twitter is Facebook's
Are you in love with Twitter at the moment, or do you hate it again? Because you seem to have a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, well, the love of Twitter ended about 3 years ago for me. So that'd be about 6 months. I reckon I've been on it for about 3.5 years. 6 months in, I think the polish wore off, and I realised that it was a powerful channel. But I think if I was to factor in the amount of time I've spent physically tweeting and mentally thinking up what to share, I'm not sure that the hourly rate would be satisfactory. I can't quite bring myself to letting Twitter go, but it's not as important to me as it used to be.
Right. Yeah, well, what I meant by my comment was that I'm not a Twitter expert. You know, I saw some guy the other day, his whole existence on Earth is he's a Twitter expert. And I'm thinking,
is that guy in England? Was he in England?
He's in Australia, I think. And I'm thinking, that's really sad. Like, that's...
I know who that is, and yeah.
But he's also still learning all about it. I'm thinking, well, you're either a freaking expert or you're still learning, but you can't have a bet each way. No, aside from that, that's a very microscopic market. I think for me, it's just a traffic repeater. It's a way to rebroadcast my content. So I have a little. What do I call it? An authoring process for content. It goes like this. It goes from my head into Evernote. It goes from Evernote to a blog post. It goes from my blog posts to Facebook, and then Facebook to Twitter. And that's basically how it goes. But it's a rapid authoring process because it's highly automated. So I can literally cut and paste from Evernote into my blog post. I post like normal, and when I've finished, I can go and embed that blog post link into my Facebook page, and that's basically all I have to do. After that, Facebook will auto-tweet that content, and my job with Twitter is really just to log on to it maybe twice a day, once in the morning and once at night, click on my @ symbol and respond to anyone who responded to my tweet.
James, and we'll wrap this up because our 30-minute show's gone to 45. But if people wanted to find out more about that, because we could talk for a long time about how to maximise your use of Facebook, they can go to our products page at freedomocean.com and they could get my masterclass where Jen talks for about 2 hours on how to create a Facebook advertising campaign, or they could get, can they still get Fast Web Formula 3, the videos? Because Jen spoke there as well.
No,
it's gone. It's off the market. It's going to be part of
the as a standalone. It's part of the new community that's coming.
Okay,
but they can pre-register for that from our products page.
Yep,
and click on any of the banners, and they'll get an early opening offer.
I would highly recommend that you do one or t'other or both, because there is some absolute gold, and without us going into detail on Facebook, you can hear it all from Jen. So, mate, lovely to hear your dulcet tones. And
Tim, you don't get all excited, but my ninjas ask when the next episode's coming out. They're avid listeners.
They what?
So you should say hi to them.
Hello, ninjas. We love the ninjas. We love getting this ninjaed, and the more often Freedom Ocean gets ninjaed, the more often we know it's getting out there. So I think we're back into a nice little flow. One of the things that we have agreed upon, and our listeners will probably have picked up on by now, is that the shows are much more, not so much more topical, but we are going to cover what's on our minds, with me asking questions along the way, as is the case, as is the premise of the show. But I think it works well. I think, and the ninjas do a wonderful job getting the transcripts out. And listeners, if you sign up at freedomocean.com, you will get a transcript of every single show that we've ever done and every show we'll do in the future. And there are some listeners creating books out of them, James. Maybe we should do that one day and print it.
No, we could make an iBook, and actually, the ninjas have already done that. Just quietly, they have made an iBook from Freedom Ocean.
Stop it!
They have. They're scary.
Where do we find that? Is it on the newsstand?
It's on their computer at the moment. They're in development. We think information products are going to have a massive run.
Yep. Good. Well, mate, until next week, been a pleasure, and thank you for sharing. Listeners, thanks for tuning in, and that is another episode of The Ocean in the can. See you next week, James.
See you, Timbo.
See you, mate.
Thanks for diving into the Freedom Ocean with James Schramko and Tim Reid. You've just come that little bit closer to living the life you choose. Please keep in mind that the ideas, opinions, and information shared in the show are those of the hosts and do not reflect those of their past employers. And as far as future employers go, well, they're both pretty much unemployable.